Alright, today it's beef weekend, although I am going to do some vegetarian stuff. We have whole top sirloin. I'm going to show you how to break it down, clean it up, and be able to utilize the whole meat. Make something what we call baseball cut tops. I don't know of anybody making them. Most of the trim, the steak trim, is going to go to ground beef. I got a towel. This is going to be a bloody one. He's been out for a little bit. Get it wiped down. My sideboard over there is going to be for putting things. First thing we're going to need to do is clean up all this mess. And then I'll clean up the pieces afterwards. Okay. Let's notice that the part of the top right here, a big chunk of fat. So we're going to do and cut right through to the corner. And get rid of some of this. Some of the meat, I'm thinking I'll do carne beef. Some of it, I haven't decided what else I'm going to do with it. That's just pure gristle. Some of you wonder why I don't wear gloves. I've worked around meat almost all my life, and for the most part, you can tell when something is wrong. Like occasionally in whole pieces of meat, your meat cutters will catch it when it's on the block. You'll have an abscess, some point where maybe the cow had taken a shot or got poked by barbed wire or something like that. And if you can't feel it, you'll feel a hard spot. You might not like what the result is. It's actually pretty damn nasty. But it's one of the things that happens when you're cutting whole meat. So what we're going to do is cut this to the corner. Now, flip it over. This top piece is what we call the culotte muscle. Some of you guys have seen culotte in the stores. This being a top sirloin. A tri-tip's a bottom sirloin. So this is slightly more tender, but not as marbled. And once you get to that point, it goes right to the corner. So you get this right here. Now that piece of meat I'll work out. And usually I'll cook it as a tri-tip. Today I think I'm going to do something different with it. I think I'm going to use it like it's a piece of flat meat and make beef carne asada out of it. So that means once I get it cleaned up, which will be in this video, and we'll start cutting it thinner, make nice even slices best we can. And see what we want to do. The top, typically right down the center, it's got a big notch of gristle. It's actually where this piece of meat is. I'm actually going to take it off today and use it for grind, since my grind is going to be contained with sirloin, ribeye, a few other things. Now if you overcut a little bit, just be sure to trim it. Keep the good pieces for grind and throw the gristle in the trash. I wish I had a bigger board. Coming soon. I'll order a table where I have more room to work. Now you can see that big piece of gristle. Take that out. Okay, now it's nice and clean, except for being faced. I'm going to change the knives. I'm going to use my 10-inch staker. Take a look at where I want it. Got a lot more blade to work with. So I'm basically going to cut it right there. I'm going to take that one. I'm going to take that one. Now we go to our string. Put that in the bag. Let's work with this one first. We're not going to do a cross string because it's one pretty much solid piece of meat. And I always do my center string first, and then I'd like to do, I know my steaks are going to be about that thick, so my strings, it'll be cutting between each string. So there'll be a string around it when I cook it. No strings attached, right? Should give myself more tail. You really don't have to do this. It's more a presentation thing. I haven't decided if I'm going to cook whole roast or I'm going to cook baseball cut steaks. I'll probably do at least steaks out of one and roast out of the other. And I'll cut a couple steaks after we get them all cleaned up. One of the guys I used to work with used to do a double spin. I guess out of habit. That's the way he was taught. So he'd do a string, he'd do 1, 2, and pull it through. Now, if this one doesn't work, you'll probably end up with a knot. With a single, you won't end up with a knot. And that's down to an and. I'm not going to mess with that. I'll face that one. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. You can see that gristle right there. A lot of times in the grocery store, they're just going to leave that on. You guys will see this big gristle knot right in the middle of your steak. It's not the most pleasant thing with top sirloin. Top sirloin is pretty good for fajitas, really tender stew, kebabs. Meat's getting so expensive anymore. You want to make your pieces work for you as much as you can. So I always want to tie to the largest, tallest part of the face. I got me thinking about doing double twists. It's kind of always almost what we do when we do pismo fillets. I didn't get one this time. They're really high right now. Just this piece of meat was $60. I spent $550 on meat. Should last me for the next 12, 13 videos, maybe. It's different when you don't work at a shop and you don't have a cooler you can walk into. But we go back to pismo fillets. Filet mignon runs from the head of it, well, it's actually called the butt of it. Butt tender is an okay piece of filet mignon. The best piece is a whole fillet. And after you end up cleaning it up, it gets smaller and smaller as you get closer to the tail. Well, let me explain where the fillet is. In a person, it's called the iliopsoas muscle. It runs from the lumbar spine to the hip bone. So as the hip moves, that's why this is such a tender piece of meat. Cows are always moving, walking, shifting their body weight. And since it's on the inside, it tends to be very lean versus on the outside. But the filet mignon, you never see the piece really from the top sirloin. The kind of the tail, the end of the butt tender is probably where the gristle all ends up in the center. So where you start to see it are those monster fillets you get in porterhouse. And to tell you the truth, that's really not the best piece of filet to get. Bad tie job on my part. The best piece of filet is where it gets real tiny on the T-bone, and the New York, which is the other side of the T-bone, is getting really super marbled, because the next steak in from the New York is a ribeye. So the filet's getting almost non-existent, and the New York's getting fantastic because it's closing in on that ribeye. And the smaller T-bones are actually better pieces of meat. Okay, let me move some stuff around. Let me get rid of this. That over there. Alright, after we move that roast, we're going to go work on the culotte muscle. When I met my girlfriend, I told her about the culotte muscle, and she insisted it was the colette muscle.
It's a colette steak.
It's a colette steak. So we know what it is. It's definitely not colette. A nice big flap of gristle right there. There's a couple things you can do to this. Stuff for me to clean up after the fact. I wish I had my 8-inch, but I don't. I don't want to take this big, nasty piece of gristle here. Looks like I have to go to stone. My buddies are going to give me crap about my knife being dull. It's a little dull. That's better. That's good enough. I'll probably hear from my buddy. He's a U.S. inspector I used to work with when I worked in Holcomb, Kansas. And he works for Kriebel's in McPherson, Kansas. He's a head meat cutter over there. And he'll give me crap because my knife was a little dull. I should have done a little steel work before. Okay, here we go. It basically kind of looks like a tri-tip, but doesn't have the curve in. Tri-tip is bottom sirloin. Comes actually off the groin. So it's pretty marbled and it's reasonably tender if you cook it right. Tri-tip roast, roughly 45 to 55 minutes. You get a hard sear on them for a good 15 minutes. Then flip them about every 10. 3 flips and you should be out the door, let it rest for 15 to 20 minutes and you're dialed. This is a similar piece of meat. It's not as marbled as a tri-tip. What I'm going to use it for, since I know it's tender, I'm going to skin it. And I'm going to use it for carne asada. I just do it the old way. A bigger knife do the work. Only problem was I was nice and underneath filament. Which I don't need to take too much meat off. Now you can buy culotte in the store. They sell it now. They didn't used to. We used to tie baseballs with the culotte muscle on. Or we'd take the culotte muscle off. And we got this nice piece here. It makes perfect kebab cuts. You can just slide right along it. Make beef kebabs super easy. And we used to use it for that a lot of times. So that's the culotte muscle. I gotta work all that stuff up. I'm gonna have some great beef trim. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna find the thickest spot, take 10-inch, let the knife do the work. I'm going to make flaps for carne asada. When you do, they're going to want to have the knife where you're able to work it over the edge of what you're cutting, because you're trying to get it about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. it's going to give you nice big flaps. You guys get carny. Looks like I'm going to get 4 out of this. And that'll go in the marinade for at least a couple days. Now, if you guys haven't used this before, in the old days, when we used to have meat, we had a big machine, huge machine with a conveyor belt and big long needles, like 3 feet long. And on meat that was questionable if it was tender enough, this needle machine would pump a bunch of holes in it. We'd run it through, usually twice, once or twice, and needle our beef. That way, no matter what it was, tender or not, it would definitely be tender now, or more tender than it was when it came off the cow. Like I said, the culotte muscle is a pretty versatile piece. It's basically like a tri-tip. You can make steaks, you can make kebabs. I made carne asada beef, which I have marinade sitting in the fridge. These are baseball cut tops. Let's see which one I want to use. Let's use this one. So, we'll do a few of these tonight. There's one. I don't like that. There's 2. There's 3. And these are your baseball cut top sirloins. They're really super clean. They got a little gristle right there on the fringe. They're evenly cut. You can cut them for serving size since your roast is already cleaned up. I'll probably freeze that one and save it either for a top roast or maybe pull it out for baseballs or something else. I haven't really decided. The trim is going to go to steak grind is when I do the other roasts, and that'll be steak burgers. And I got to clean up the rest of this mess on the block, but we're done. I do have another video coming behind this one. It has to be marinated as well, so it'll be a vegetarian kebab. And then I'm kind of mixing and matching. I got 3 upcoming vegetarian dishes. One's kind of a holiday oriented, but that's coming in the next few days. All right, thank you. Like and subscribe, and give me some comments.